We are told the struggle is human, but the scripture says otherwise. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, not against faces, not against names, not against people. It's against principalities and against powers, against rulers of darkness, against spiritual forces moving in unseen places. Because we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh. You see, the battle is real, but it is not visible. The pressure is real, but it's not always human. Behind the conflicts, behind chaos, behind resistance, there are forces, invisible, strategic persistence. This is why some storms cannot be solved with effort, because some storms are spiritual. Daniel prayed, and heaven answered, and the answer was delayed, not by distance, but by resistance. For the prince of Persia withstood the messenger, a ruler not of land, but of influence. This reveals the truth. Not every delay is denial. Sometimes there are opposition in realms you cannot see. Jesus said himself, Satan has asked to sift you. The attack was not visible, but requested. Your adversary walks about to see whom he may devour, sometimes through pressure and fear and confusion, because the whole world lies under influence. But Jesus spoke again. Now shall the prince of this world shall be cast out. But let me remind you that there is someone that is greater than the wicked one, greater than any other throne, greater than all governments around the world, greater than all the military throughout the land. However, the enemy came and he attacked you. His hands were invisible, but the effects of his assault were noticeable. You carry so much hurt inside your chest, words you heard that you could not forget. You wanted justice. You wanted peace. You wanted the walls that held you back to come crumbling down, but you could not get up. You were cut deep, and you were left for dead. You bled. You cried. You looked around and there was no one there to assist you. You were all alone in your pain, in your feelings, and in your chaos. The very ones you brought back to life has now tried to take your life. Take your peace, your joy, your hope. You feel stripped of your dignity and of your honor. The war have caused you a spiritual famine, that each breath you take hurts. Each night it seems to get darker. Strange thoughts has come into your head and you're saying, this is not me. This is not who I am. Why am I like this? when all of a sudden you hear that still small voice that says, "Arise, let God's enemies be scattered." It is then in that moment you are like eaglets in a nest. The mother eagle begins to stir her nest up. She is now making the nest uncomfortable and undesirable for her eaglets to stay in that comfort zone. She's stirring them up because their wings are ready to flap. They don't know it yet, but she said it's time to arise. It's time to spread your wings, for you were not built for the nest, you were purposed to fly. God is saying your comfort zone is a cage. It will keep you from your purpose. Comfort zones create weakness, stagnation, and causes lack of growth. You will end up bored and unchallenged. It will limit your potential. Therefore, I'm reminded what God said in one of the greatest scriptures that's in the Bible to the prophet Jeremiah, chapter 1, verse 5. God said, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I had already set you apart. I appointed you to be a prophet to the nations." Now listen to me carefully. When most people read that verse, they think it simply means that God has a plan for me. Yes, He does, but it is deeper than that. Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 5 is not a motivational quote. It's a calling statement. It is God explaining how purpose works. Hear what God said. "Before I formed you in the womb." That means your purpose did not start when you became an adult. It did not start when you discovered your gift. It did not start when you got saved. God is saying, I was already working before you even existed. Your life is not an accident. Your life is not random. Your story did not begin with your mistakes. Your story began with God. God said, "I knew you." The word "knew" does not mean that God had information about Jeremiah. It means God had relationship intentions with Jeremiah. God is saying today, I recognize you. I chose you. I had you in mind, not because you earned it, not because you were perfect, but because I am God. God said, before you were born, I set you apart. This is the part many people miss. To be set apart means to be consecrated. It means to be preserved for a holy purpose. In other words, Jeremiah was not just created, he was marked for a mission. And here is the truth. Being set apart is not always comfortable, because what is set apart does not always fit in. What is set apart is often misunderstood. What is set apart often feels lonely, because God separates people before He elevates them. God told Jeremiah, I appointed you a prophet to the nations. He did not say to Jeremiah, I appointed you to speak to your friends. He said nations. That means Jeremiah's calling was bigger than his feelings, bigger than his age, bigger than his fear. But Jeremiah responded by saying, Lord, I am too young. I can't speak. But God raised his voice and said, "Do not say you are too young. I will put my words in your mouth." Let me tell you what this teaches us today. That purpose is not something you find. Purpose is something God forms. It means God can call you before you understand yourself. God can choose you before you feel ready. God can assign you before you feel qualified. So when you look at your life and say, "I don't know why I'm going through this," let me answer by saying, because you were set apart. Some battles are not punishment. Some battles are training. Some delays are not denial. Some delays are preparations. Some isolations are not rejection. Some isolations are consecrations. So if God knew you before you were born, then your present pain cannot cancel your future purpose. If God set you apart before you were born, then people cannot unmark what God marked. So hear this clearly. You are not forgotten. You are not random. You are not disqualified. If God called Jeremiah, he can call you. The same God who appoints is the same God who sustains. Jeremiah is not about destiny. It simply means that God was not reacting to you. He was designing you. Before you had a voice, he had an assignment. Before you had fear, he had a future. Jeremiah did not choose prophecy. Prophecy chose him. Here is the point. You are called before you are ready. You must grow into what heaven already decided. God does not call you because you are prepared. He called you because he prepared you before you arrive, before the womb, before the breath, before the name. You were shaped with intention. And if God formed you, then even your sensitivity has purpose. Even your struggles have direction. Even your isolation has design. Maybe some of you feel different. Maybe some of you feel misunderstood. Maybe some of you feel too intense for ordinary life. Maybe, just maybe, that is because you were set apart, not elevated, not applauded, but set apart. Being set apart means you walk paths that others do not even understand. Listen to me. Jeremiah wept. Jeremiah struggled. Jeremiah wanted to quit, but he could not, because the calling was fire in his bones. When God marks you, silence becomes impossible. This is the season, my friends. This is the season to battle. This is the season for a war cry. This is the season to have faith over famine, faith over fear, faith over doubt. This is the season to lay aside the deeds of darkness and put on the whole armor of light. For God has equipped you with strength for the battle. You have been called to stand up and battle against the principalities of the air and against the wiles of the wicked one. This is the season. This is the season to armor up and take your stand, for the days are evil. Satan has been after your family after your marriage, after your children, after your peace, after your sanctity. But armor up. Prepare yourself to fight in the spirit for what you believe in, what you love. Don't give up. Don't give in. Don't surrender. Protect what matters the most. Though you feel like maybe you are in the wilderness, though life is rushing at you like troubled waters, you stand in faith that God has marked you and purposed you. The mountains may be high and the valleys may be wide, but God gives strength to his warriors to endure hardships. Let me remind you, the higher you climb, the colder the wind blows. Success is a lonely road that few are willing to walk. There are people who don't want you to fail. They just don't want you to win. Envy, my friend, is the most silent and common human reaction. Your growth will trigger their insecurities. Your light will shine on the things that they haven't fixed yet. It is when you armor up, you will lose some people, but don't chase those who walk away. That's not loss, that is a cleansing. He is preparing you for greatness, not to be average, not to blend in, not to flow with the current of the culture. It is in the process that many are willing not to go through. Though you asked for comfort, but he gave you conflict. You asked for peace, but he gave you chaos. You asked for a sign from heaven, but he gave you war to face. You asked for a shorter road, but he made you walk the long way. You wanted a clear-cut answer, but he answered you with silence. But in the weight of the waiting, he was shaping you who you are on the inside. You thought it was punishment, but it was his design. He was building your heart, building your character. Let me be clear with you today. Before there is a crown, there is the dust. Before there is honor, we must learn to bow. Beneath the crown of David, beneath the robe of David, there were scars, bruises, and cuts. When God was building David, he was not building comfort. He was building a warrior. He didn't call David to be impressive. He called David to be a warrior. Maybe you thought what was trying to break you was actually training you. What tried to delay you was actually disciplining you. What was trying to isolate you was sharpening you. You are not empty. You are loaded with potentials. God is positioning you from normalizing being tired and defeated. God is transforming you from being average, because average is the enemy to dominion. You cannot rule being average. You cannot battle being average. You cannot rule what you don't master. Average people avoid mastery. Being average numbs your hunger while stealing your assignment. Average brings us into personal prisons and pits. average will cause you to lose your desperation, where you are no longer hungry for the quality of life. So today, I speak to sound the alarm for you. This is your wake-up call. This is your resurrection moment. No more rehearsals. No more almost. No more one day. No more I tried. No more I hope so. No more if it's meant to be, it will be. This is your assignment. This is your calling. This is your purpose. Get up. Rise up. Show up. Move up. Stand up. This is not church. This is not a social gathering. My friends, this is war.